Well, you've been asking for it for a long time now, and now it's happening. Geert Wilders, the Dutch lawmaker who has been castigated for speaking the truth about radical Islam, joins us now for an exclusive interview on the Savage Nation. He was banned from Britain, and that ban was just overturned in the courts. This is his first American interview since he was allowed back in England. Geert, thank you very much for being with us today on the Savage Nation radio program.
It's an honor for me to be on your show.
Well, you're the real honored guest because you've been through, as a movie once said, to hell and back. How many years were you on that list of banned individuals?
Well, actually, I don't know that I was on a list of banned individuals in the United Kingdom, but I heard in February this year when I wanted to travel to the United Kingdom that Jackie Smith, the then Home Secretary, banned me from entering. So I don't think I'm actually on the list, but she just banned me for entering because she thought that my presence would endanger community harmony and therefore public security of that kind of nonsense.
Yes, of course. I'm of course on the.
All about that, don't you?
Well, I'm on a list with murderers and terrorists. It's interesting to me that so-called liberals would link speech with the action of murderers. To them, I guess speech and action are one and the same.
Exactly.
Your movie is the most important part of this discussion. All you want to do is show the short film called Fitna, which explores the Quran. Have you shown that yet in England?
No, not yet. But millions of people have watched it on the internet by now. But no, we plan to show it in March next year, and I still hope I will be allowed then to enter. As you know, the UK courts last week overruled the decision of the British government, the cowardly decision to ban me. So I went over last Friday and talked to one of my friends of the House of Lords, Lord Malcolm Pearson, and we agreed to try again in March 2010. And it was really ridiculous that the UK government thought that there would be some kind of rows or whatever in the streets of London, because I showed Fitna in the United States Senate, in the Parliament of Denmark, in Jerusalem, in Rome, next month in the Parliament of the Czech Republic, and never anything has happened. So I'm afraid, like with you, it's more a political decision than a decision that is based on any law. It's just the dimitude and the weakness of the liberal cultural relativists that unfortunately are in charge in Europe today.
Geert, I noticed while you were speaking outside with some of the most hate-filled practitioners of the religion of peace, screaming things such as Sharia law will be dominating England, we will dominate, kill those who insult Islam. I thought they were the best advertisement for why your film should be seen everywhere before it's too late.
Exactly. They exactly proved my point. While I was holding a press conference with Lord Malcolm Pearson in the UK Parliament, there were a mob really of Muslims shouting that I should have capital punishment and that Sharia should be enforced in the whole of Europe, and freedom go to hell is what they shouted. And
why are they allowed to stay in England? That's considered freedom of speech, but my espousing of nationalist tendencies, meaning a nation should be defined by its borders, language, and culture, is considered criminal by these internationalists?
Yeah, probably. I'm afraid that all over Europe, it's not only the United Kingdom, even though they are one of the worst, those weak cultural relativists give in and give up to everybody who is speaking in favor of the Islamic dangerous ideology. But people who are critical against, they see as a threat. And of course, this is completely the wrong way around this problem. You cannot enter the United Kingdom if you say if you're not incitement of, if you don't, I don't, and you don't, I'm sure incite violence or hatred. I have nothing at all to do with that, but still.
No, I have not either. I wouldn't have lasted in radio 5 minutes, let alone 15 years. You know what I love, Geert? The BBC covered this on Thursday, and they said, far-right Dutch MP Geert Wilders has won an appeal against the Home Office decision barring his entry. It's interesting to me that your ancestors in Holland who fought the Nazis, would they have been called far-right as well for standing up to Hitler because they believed in the sovereignty of your home country?
Of course not. And this is exactly the point I also make, the double standard that they have. But don't forget, the leaders in most of the European countries are weak. They are giving in. Most part of the electorate nowadays is also a growing part of the electorate is from Islamic origin. They have a big identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They don't know what culture they should fight for. And once again, I have nothing against people or against Muslims, but I know that the Islamic ideology, the stronger it becomes, the less freedom we will get. So we have to fight this totalitarian ideology. This is why I compared, by the way, Winston Churchill did in the 50s in his book, The Second World War. I compared the Quran with Mein Kampf, and I compared the Islamic ideology with other totalitarian ideologies like communism or fascism.
Why do you say that the Quran is like Hitler's Mein Kampf? Obviously, that would incite a lot of reaction. Many people would say, wait a minute, are you an enemy of Islam? I know you're not, but I'd like you to explain what you mean by that.
Well, I believe that Islam is not another leaf on the tree of religions. Of course, it has partly, maybe 5%, it's a religion. It has religious symbols like temples and a holy book and things like that. But I believe that Islam, unlike other religions, Christianity or Judaism, really has no intention to assimilate or to integrate. Islam wants to dominate our societies. The ideology is therefore totalitarian, and therefore I compare it indeed with communism or fascism. Once again, I'm not talking about the people. I know that the majority of the Muslims in our societies today are law-abiding people, but the ideology has what they call the kafirs, the people who are non-Islamic, has very bad things in store for us, for everybody is non-Islamic, and has no room for anything but Islam. And you see it I traveled to almost every country in the Middle East where the Islamic culture is dominant. There was in Iraq, Iran, Syria, and you see that there is no country where the Islamic ideology or the Islamic culture is dominant, that you see a rule of law, that you see a civil society, that you see a functioning parliament that can send a leader home with 51% of a majority. This is not the case, and we get all immigration, legal and illegal, from those parts of the world in Europe. And we should stand up and fight and show who we are, what our identity is, and it's certainly not an Islamic identity, the culture that we have.
So are you still calling for the ban of 5 years on the founding of mosques and Islamic schools, a permanent ban on preaching in any other language but Dutch? Foreign imams should be forbidden to preach. Radical mosques should be closed and radical Muslims expelled. Do you still stand by those principles that you espoused in your book, Honest Talk? In March of 2005, you wrote a blockbuster of a book called Honest Talk. And in that book, this is what you called for. Do you still believe that these points should be implemented?
I really believe that they should be implemented because, once again, the more Islam a society gets, the less freedom we will have. And I believe that the immigration, which is often, unfortunately, illegal, but also very legal, we have a mass immigration from Islamic countries, is really changing our society for the worse. And I don't believe in Islamic schools either. I believe that young Muslim children, if they want to be independent and integrated, should go to schools with Dutch children and not separated and being educated in ideology of hate and intolerance. So yes, indeed, if Muslims in our societies want to adhere to our values, to our constitution, to our rule of law, they are very welcome to stay, and I would even like to help them to integrate. But if they cross the red line and start thinking about implementation of Sharia or commit crimes, I think there can only be one message, and that is that we will extradite you, and there's no room for such people in our societies.
You're absolutely right, Geert. We'll be back in just a minute with Geert Wilders on the Savage Nation.
Savage.